Good morning. We'll begin with an article from the Wall Street Journal that is dated March of 2013. This is over 11 years ago. And it's about how Chinese students come to the United States to study for university, but are having some trouble justifying the expense of it. U.S. students can qualify for big discounts in tuition and room and board through college loans and scholarships. But Chinese families pay the whole cost, full tuition, full room and board. And here in 2013, those costs added up to about $200,000. Here, though, we see the problem. Most of these Chinese students do return to China, 72% of them. But they learn that the U.S. degree doesn't help them much in the job market here. 70% of Chinese employers do not give preferential treatment to Haigui candidates, and 8% say they actually avoid hiring them. Haigui is the Chinese word for sea turtles, and it refers to students who go abroad to study and then return to China. The employers here say that the time the students spend in the United States comes at the expense of developing personal connections, or guanxi, compared to Chinese students who stay here and study in Chinese universities. There is a survey here of venture capital firms in China, and they discovered that Haigui VCs in China are less productive and less successful than the ones who studied here. Guanxi, personal relationships, were forfeited, and the students came back from the United States unprepared for how differently the industry works in China. And remember, this is from 2013, 11 years ago. Consider what has happened in a macro sense since 2013. The tuition costs that they were complaining about back then, they're twice as high now. They've doubled since then. During the COVID pandemic, U.S. universities actually increased tuition, even though they were conducting classes online. Outside the United States, the developments are even more significant. The Chinese were building universities that are now competitive in quality with Western universities and at 1/10 the cost. 2013 was also when the Belt and Road Initiative began. And fast forward to today, that program is drawing hundreds of thousands of international students to Chinese universities instead of to American ones. And it is this last thing, that university students who are going to study here in China instead of in the United States, this is going to pose serious long-term disadvantages for the United States in the future and advantages to China instead. Chinese universities are now rising fast up the global rankings. Here's Barron's from last September, a dramatic rise, they call it. There are two Chinese universities in the top 15 now, Tsinghua University and Peking University. In the top 100, China has 7 spots, up from just 2 a few years ago. In the top 400, they've got 30, up from just 15 schools 3 years ago. Times Higher Education has Tsinghua University at number 8, already in the top 10 and just ahead of Yale University. The Chinese universities now then enjoy the international reputation and prestige, going up head-to-head against our top Ivy League universities and our top public schools. So to top-tier international students, Chinese universities are already now in the conversation. Then we move over to cost. Here are the costs of tuition at the C9 universities for international students. The C9s are the top universities in China, called the C9 League. These universities here are world-class universities. That's not an opinion, it's just an objective fact. And the highest number on this page is $4,700 for Zhejiang University. Tsinghua University, which Times Higher Ed has ranked number 8 in the world, is $4,500 a year. That's the cost for international students to go to these universities. If an American university administrator looks at what the Chinese universities are charging for international students, he will think that the Chinese admins are crazy. If Tsinghua University is better than Yale University, they should be charging international students accordingly, much more. Tsinghua could be using their prestige and their ranking as a profit center for the university. And so Tsinghua is leaving a lot of money on the table. That's what a US higher education official would say. This is the Christian Science Monitor, and it's a really terrific piece about China's investments abroad. The Chinese Belt and Road Initiative started in 2013, and it's China's program to develop deep economic and political ties across the developing world. The title of this piece says it all. China is going into South America, and the United States is leaving. The public opinion in Chile is divided somewhat in whether to be part of the old American bloc or whether China is offering Chile a better deal, a new way forward. And people in the first group are older and traditional. The second group, which favors China, is more pragmatic and is generally younger. People are the ones who go to college, so that's bad news for universities already, but it gets worse. Young academics in Chile all wanted scholarships to the US, but we're not even there anymore. The program shut down. Now China is offering 20,000 scholarships, and everyone wants to go to China. China thinks Chile is cool, and Chilean students are responding. And what is happening in Chile is happening all across Latin America, all across Africa, all across Asia, all across Central and Eastern Europe. American students aren't coming to China to study, but everyone else seems to be. There are foreign engineering students living in my building, getting PhDs and master's degrees in biotechnology. China is paying them a stipend to study here, and the university is covering the apartment rent. And I live in a nice building, 5-minute walk to the beach, this one right here. So why is the Chinese university paying them nice money instead of the other way around? And if you look at the program on the basis of ROI, the Chinese university is losing money. So why are they doing it? University graduates don't really know anything when they graduate university. So they take a job as an entry-level position. 10 years later, though, they're not entry-level. Now they're running a department. In 20 years, they're in charge of a division. In 25 years, they're the head of a company. They're in charge of a hospital or in charge of a municipal government. They run industries and trade groups and universities. They run mines and ports and railroads and airports and space programs. And these 20,000 kids from Chile and the hundreds of thousands of others from other countries, as they go up the career ladder, who are they going to do business with? They have friends and they have classmates and business associates and alumni networks. People they met here when they were studying here in China. Will they be friendly with them? Prefer to do business with them? The same people who went and studied and their families never had to worry about the cost? Or, as they move up the career ladder, will they cozy up instead with graduates of schools from the United States or in Europe or in Canada? The schools who are telling them today that they want them to go and study there if mom and dad has $500,000 in the bank. The question answers itself. And then we realize what these Chinese universities are doing, what they're thinking. The Chinese universities are just as good, and that's now reflected in our own rankings of them. They're also much less expensive when they don't have to be. But they are buying the loyalties and the future buying decisions and the relationships of hundreds of thousands of people from around the world today, their kids today. But in 25 years, they will be running companies and they will be running governments. And to Tsinghua University and these others here, and to China in particular, that is worth a lot more. Be good.
Sir, the bosses and managers in our companies, the mayors and police in our towns, the governors and kings